Shawn Literacy. And today, inside of the studio with us, we have our very Cleveland's own Jamal Collins, #JBirkin, Lisa McGuthry, and Cleveland's own Barbara Bradford-Williams. But today we're going to have a conversation about education. Not only a conversation about education, but Jamal is going to share with us today his story about second grade and how it continues to have an effect even as into his adult life. Welcome into the studio, JBirkin. Hey, Mr. Collins.
Hey,
how are you today?
How you doing?
I'm doing great. I want to thank you for coming in the studio with us. We created this platform just to really have conversations about education. The world is going to go to virtual learning, and with virtual learning, we need to have a conversation. You are a digital graphic designer as well as artist as well as teacher. So you understand the ins and outs of the digital world. But for some parents, they're used to sending their children to school and allowing children to learn in school. And now that's going to fall on the shoulders of the parents. So welcome in the studio. Share with us how you feel about virtual learning, and then take that into a little bit of your story in second grade.
Okay, let's see, about virtual learning. Actually, we have no choice because of the pandemic, so we have to incorporate some virtual learning. For the most part, I teach digital already, so being virtual is just being on the computer all the time, I feel like, anyway. So I think the thing is to really tune in to kids and see how they're feeling about the pandemic period and being at home and adjusting that program. So it's not really about, being virtual. It's about really adjusting how they're feeling about being away from their friends and having to wear masks and things like that. So building a course and the curriculum around that versus just being live online.
And that's one of the reasons, another reasons why we wanted to be able to create this talk, so we can have talks like that. So not only, like what you said, we have to be able to take it back to the community and say, okay, yes, the children are virtually learning, but are we having conversations about their feelings? Are we having conversations about their emotions?
Right.
Do we know how they feel since they have to stay home? And as we bring teachers and educators onto the show, those are some of the questions that we can bring in to add into our dialogue. Now, because you and I have done various things in the community, Mr. Collins and I did an initiative called Books and Cuts. And Books and Cuts is through my son's program, Boys Do Read. And prior to COVID-19, we would go into the schools. The children that got their permission slip signed, of course, got a fresh haircut. We had a collaboration with La Barberia Barber Institute. So the boys left, but when they came in, Mr. Collins taught them about branding themselves. He said, hey, y'all on the phones, y'all on the tablets, y'all on the computers anyway. So he talked to them about branding themselves. We talked to them about making an affirmation for their life. They left with a fresh cut, free books, how to make an affirmation and how to brand yourself. So I always commend him for the work that he do, not only in the community, but the work that he do with our boys. But what I need you to do today on our show is tell us a little bit about your second grade story. My son just passed the third grade reading test, but tell us about second grade and how the effects it still has on you today as a grown man when you share your story.
Okay. So a long time ago, like in 1975. 1975, I flunked the second grade, and it was like traumatic for me. So I think the problem was that when I reflect back on it, I think my parents should just told me what was going on. So my friends, my peers are moving on to the next grade, and I have to stay back with some younger guys. And I think part of the problem was that they knew that I was held back too. So that comes with some teasing, things like that. So I think that it's good to let youth know early that the trials and tribulations they're gonna have as a young black male, and just so you can make those adjustments later. So it's like understanding your enemy and understanding how to operate through school and things like that. So I think part of the problem is I wish that that the community could have really took control of the school system back then in the 70s. So our parents was just kind of sending us to a building full of strangers, full of people that we don't know, and responsible for us that whole time. So I think when I talked to my mother about it, you know, I kind of bring it up a lot, but when I talked to my mother about it, I went to a different preschool. So some of the stuff that they was learning, I guess they felt like I wasn't up to speed, but it's just because it was just about ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, you know, for the most part. So I felt like I should have moved on. So, and I just had a bad taste in my mouth with schools since that point. So you know, it just kind of put me in a box too. So it you know, it put me in a box. So I had a bad, bitter taste about school, and so my grades reflected that from that point on. So.
As a parent, I went through that as well with my oldest daughter.
Gotcha.
I put her into a high school program where it didn't necessarily educate her. It was the ABC 1, 2, 3, but when she wasn't prepared to go into a suburban school system where they wanted to hold her back once she got to the first grade, and I felt like I failed her as a parent by not investing in a child care center that would educate her early on. I was educating her at home and reading to her, but the continuum, you know, of her getting the basics at home, you know, in school, she didn't get. So when they talked about seasons, she thought pepper and salt. They meant spring, summer, fall.
Gotcha.
So there was just that difference of what children learn and how they learn and the difference. So coming from that setting to a suburban setting where a lot of children were highly advanced, it was difficult because back then I was, you know, a good parent, but I was in school. I was working full time. But I learned a lot with my my other 2 children. They went to a child care center that was really amazing. They went to the Shaker Day School and they learned so much. They were learning and reading by the time they were 3.
And that's what I really want to add to before Barbara asks her piece real quick. But even earlier today, Barbara and I were sharing how your zip code plays such a big important on the type of grocery store you get in your community, what type of health care you get in your community, what type of education and resources is poured into that community because of the tax dollars that's flooded into that community. So if you're in a community that got affluent tax dollars flowing in it, then you got affluent education and affluent resources. But if you're in a community where the tax dollars are not pouring in like that, a CMSD school such as where our students attend, then you can see the difference in those resources. Even as COVID and school begins to open back up, some are learning virtually, some are going back to school, but it's all based on the resources that are available. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. For school children that's listening to you, if it was one thing that could get you on that path, what would that one thing be?
I think I would just tell them to be ready for it to be rough. It's gonna be rough sometimes. So just to be, you know, it's not always gonna be pretty. It's not always gonna be sunny. So, you know, a lot of people gonna try to hold you back and tell you that, you know, you can't do something, or, you know, just very discouraging. So I went from having an abusive 2nd grade teacher to having an abusive manager when I was in corporate. So it's just things like that. Like, you just gotta get prepared to go through these things, but it's gonna be sunny on the next side. So
when you talk about sunny on the next side, is that your hashtag Jay Working?
No, I mean, my hashtag Jay Working is just kind of a play off my name, but you know, it's just me.
What could you tell the audience just a little bit about Jay Working and what that is and what you do for the community?
Gotcha. So I'm a designer. What's a designer? Somebody who designs something. So I specialize in graphic design coming out of college, but design is just one thing. But a designer does photography, does video, does coding, websites, all kind of things like that. So I started out doing that, and then I started teaching. I was specializing in just teaching kids graphic design for the most part. And I started an after-school program. We went from like 7 locations to 10 different districts in CMSD to Richmond, and then I just started teaching college students. So it's a mix from design thinking to marketing to sales and things like that. For the most part, what I noticed is, well, I went to Akron U back in the 90s. It's predominantly still a white field. So it wasn't no black designers that I could really talk to and really get some help from. You know what I mean? So, just the trials and tribulations of going through college, messing up my credit, getting student loans, dealing with corporate, trying to get through the red tape of that situation too. So I can come back and help the kids and help the youth, figure out, what's practical for them to do. So now that it's 2020, we got, we can set up an LLC for $100. We can set up our own reality show. We can do photography. We can do all of these things. So, being self-taught is like very practical for him to do and make some money. So.
And how can they find you?
At jayworking.com. JAYWORKING.
Now, before we bring in our next guest and before we move to the next part of our segment, Barbara Bradford runs the Literacy Lounge, where we do lunch and literacy, where children have access to free snacks, free books, free resources for the community. But she also runs daycare here in the city. Yes. And she's just going to share with us briefly some of the experiences with the children at the daycare.
Hello everyone. I just want to touch bases real quick. I have been in the daycare field for over 20 years and I have experienced a lot of different things. It's a lot of ups and downs when it comes to the children that attend school. They sometimes get kicked out, suspended, it's just all kind of weird stuff. Like I would notice like a parent calling me saying, well, can such and such attend daycare the rest of the week because he got kicked out because he was not listening to the teacher or something like that. Now, I do want to say that, I understand rules are rules, but sometimes they can do things that would, I want to say, like, just because they want to be bothered with the kids, they'll go ahead and say, well, you're suspended, and they get stuck with us because we're daycare providers and parents has to go to work. But I don't see the problem that the other teachers are having in school, and that causes, I just want to know, like, what's the reason why this child is acting like this in school but doesn't act like this at daycare. So I just want to say daycare centers are very important and it's very vital to children, because sometimes they can come to daycare and they do a whole 360 and they get more respect, they get more love, and it's just a better place for kids. I just want to say that all kids are not bad, but teacher seems to think that way. But we as daycare providers, we love each and every kid as our own. And I think that if kids would go to an early childhood education program or any type of community or literacy program, maybe this can change their life. Maybe they have it easier in school. They won't get suspended or they'll get better grades. So I just want to say we are available. Lisa, she does transportation for me. Shawn, she has books. We are available here in Cleveland, 3484 MLK Drive. You can give us a call at 216-355-7140 if you need help with your children's transportation, they need snacks, anything, we're here for them.
Give them that number one more time.
216-355-7140.
Now when you call the number, that number is for anybody that's providing services that has children. You can get free snacks.
Yes.
You can also reach out to literacyinthehood.com for free books. Lisa McGuthry here at Our Favorite Things Boutiques has free books and free snacks. But Lisa also opened up the back of the boutique where you can come and get free resources. As children's school begin to open, we're going to do 2-hour increments where they can come and get help with their homework. Yes. So Our Favorite Things Boutique, give them your number, Lisa.
Yes, you can give us a call at 1-800-975-0731. And our hours of operation are 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And children can come in 2-hour increments and receive assistance with homework virtually, that they're doing schoolwork virtually. I am a trained teacher, literacy specialist, so we're here to serve our community.
Mr. Collins, tell them how they can reach you one more time.
At jayworking, That's JAYWORKING.com. That's on all social media and the YouTube channel as well. So.
And then you can reach Literacy in the Hood at literacyinthehood.com, literacyinthehood@gmail. You can also find me at Shawn Literacy on Facebook. Thank you for watching today. Stay tuned. We're not done. Welcome to Shoptalk Cle, Cleveland Literacy Efforts. Today we have a special guest here with us in the audience, Antoinette Jordan, the general manager of Our Favorite Things Boutique. But we're not talking about the boutique today. She's going to talk about raising her child. She's going to talk about virtual learning, how she feels as schools begin to open up. And she's just going to share some of her parenting tips today with us on the show. We also have Barbara Bradford-Williams and Lisa McGuthry. Welcome. Hi, we call her Toni. Hi, Toni.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yes, I really want to welcome you to the show. One thing about our platform is we have a platform where we talk about Cleveland literacy efforts, but we really want to talk about education. And as I listen to the stories about you and your child, as I listen to some of the things and the techniques that you used, as you saw some things weren't working right in school and how you just took that initiative on your own, I thought it'd be great just to invite you on the show and maybe that you can just share some of those tips with parents and how you chose not to listen to what the school said and just took that fight for your baby.
Okay, then we're talking about Antonio. I have 3 children.
Yes.
And Antonio was my special needs child. He's autistic. And we started off with taking him to, when he first started school, he went in and that day one, I got a 3-hour conference. Who has a 3-hour parent-teacher conference on day one? And we were at the Head Start and they were like, there's a problem. I'm like, well, what's the problem? I'm like you, Barbara, where I was just like, I don't have a problem at home. Why are you having a problem here? He's not a bad child. And we had just gotten our diagnosis saying that he had Asperger's. But I knew after doing the research that he was a very intelligent child. They are more intelligent than many people, and their brains and their bodies just don't work at the same speed. So it became to me, how do I tap into what he's thinking and what he's seeing? So I just began to get his attention. I would always say, well, let me see your eyes. So I know he was talking to me and he was responding to what I was saying at that time. And I would always hold his hands when I would talk to him. So we know if this is a safe spot, it's just me and you right here, and let's talk about what we can do. So taking him to school, I had to get to the teachers and say, well, you know, you guys get paid to do this, so I need you all to work with me too. Well, I knew at that time I was going to have to be his biggest advocate. I did not want my son to know that he was autistic. That is nothing, you never give anybody a crutch, because if you give them a crutch, they're going to lean on that. I just told him he had a different way of learning. So I began to visit the school a lot and show the teachers how to handle my child in the class. And if they couldn't do it, then we need to get an aide in here that can do it, somebody who's trained to deal with special needs kids. And it wasn't until he got in 10th grade when he found out he was autistic. One of the teacher's aides told him that. And he literally went home, got on the internet, looked up autism, saw all the characteristics and started doing it. Because he said, I'm autistic. And we had to teach him that that was not acceptable. You didn't have to be defined. And so many times that being brown or black, you are defined as such. Any word, and then you start acting like that word, and you don't have to be that. So it was always about empowering my child and making sure that as his biggest advocate, that I would be the one to say, no, you don't have to sit here. You don't have to be this person. You can do whatever you want to do. And now at 21 years old, watching him graduate mainstream, you know, from a regular classroom and working a full-time job, and has a radio, has learned to have radio in his job. And then I know that we did the right thing with working with him. Yes.
I saw Toni today. We had a child that was here in the store. We brought him back. He was getting some snacks and books. His mom was shopping, and he had autism. Toni turned this whole situation around. It was absolutely amazing. This kid was running back and forth. She asked him, she said, look at me. She got his attention. It was something also wrong with his hearing. So she was able to communicate with him. So the mom could have a positive shopping experience. He was able to get books, he was able to get snacks, but he also had a positive interaction here at the boutique.